Hey bitch, and welcome back to me talking about people I hate. Today we are talking about Katie Lee Farrell, an individual who should honestly be behind bars. If you're not up to date with what's been going on all over TikTok, which is my least favorite platform, but here I am talking about it continuously. Everybody has been talking about Katie Lee Farrell, who is a fake horse trainer slash backyard breeder slash animal abuser alleged, who has been starving horses at a professional horse training facility in New Jersey. Why the owners of this facility have not been held accountable? I don't know. There's multiple bad apples in this story, so buckle up. Also, I have to emphasize, all of this is just alleged at the moment. However, she is being investigated by authorities, so we'll see what happens on that front. Essentially, this whole situation started when a woman by the name of Leanne Johnson posted to Facebook a story of her horse who was recently murdered under Katie Lee Farrell's care. It's a long one, buckle up, but you need to hear this. I sent Whiskey to a boarding training facility November 1st of 2023. He was supposed to stay for 4 months to be broke/trained. I paid this woman $1,000 a month to take care of him and ride him 6 times per week. The farm was in New Jersey, about an hour and a half away from my house. I kept in contact with the trainer several times a week, asking for updates, pictures, videos, etc. She was always very slow at responding and rarely sent a picture of him due to her being extremely busy, which I can understand. She had about 22 horses there and actively showed. She did send me a couple of pictures and videos, and Whiskey always had a blanket or saddle on. The pictures were far away, so I couldn't really tell he was declining at the time. She would always tell me how well he was doing and what a sweetheart he was, so I made arrangements to pick him up March 1st after the 4 months of training, and she called me and said, "He is almost where I want him. Could I just have 2 more weeks? He's doing so well." I told her I didn't want to pay another month of training board, so she said, "Don't worry about it, just give me $200 for feed and we'll call it even." I got a text Sunday morning from a friend asking me if I had seen my horse lately. I said not in person, but I got several photos and videos of him, but I explained I was picking him up Friday the 15th to bring him home. I immediately texted the trainer and said, "How is Whiskey?" She said, "He's good." I said, "Send me a picture of him." She said, "Okay." An hour or so went by and nothing, no picture. She then texted me and told me my horse was laying down kind of weird, and she was going to have a vet look at him because he was already looking at another horse there. I called her and we FaceTimed. I could see Whiskey was in bad shape. I did FaceTime and talk with the vet at this time. Vet said he has the symptoms of botulism and his temp was only 93. He was hypothermic and we needed to put him to sleep. His heart was paralyzed and he was going to suffocate to death. I told him to go ahead and do it, and I watched over the phone as my horse took his last breath. The trainer said she had just put her horse down too because it had the same symptoms, so she arranged for pickup for both deceased animals last night. I asked for a picture of Whiskey's body without a blanket, and she wouldn't answer me. Hours later, she texted and said, "Sorry, my phone was in the truck charging. It's too late and the guy already picked them up." And then I asked for the guy's number, no response. Thank God my post was circulating on Facebook, and several people reached out to me and said your horse was starved to death. I then went into fight mode. They told me the name of the company that picked him up. I begged him to bring my horse's body to my house and offered to meet him somewhere to get him. He said, "I'll be to your house in an hour." When he backed in last night and opened the trailer, I saw the most horrific sight. I've never seen a horse in person in that condition, only on TV, SPCA rescues. Mind you, the trainer still hadn't sent me his number. She was hoping he would just dispose of him before I had the chance to find him. I highly doubt this was a botulism case. It was a starvation case. Her vet covered for her, so he's just as guilty. I didn't sleep a wink. I was up all night planning my attack. At 6 a.m., I started making phone calls, called the New Jersey State Police, I called Avondale State Police, I called the Bolton Center, I called the vet that euthanized yesterday. I was on a mission for justice. Cops came to my house and made a report. Horse was taken to New Bolton for a necropsy. Meanwhile, I'm sending photos to Jersey police of my horse explaining the situation. Once I got Whiskey unloaded at New Bolton, I was on my way to New Jersey to grab a hold of this woman. We dropped the trailer off and booked it to New Jersey. We pulled in and the cops, vets, and animal welfare personnel were there. And she was in there with everyone, showing them each horse stall by stall. I couldn't hold back my anger. I said very loud to all those officials, "My name is Amber Johnson and my horse died here yesterday." Cops stepped in and took me out of the barn and put me in a car with a lead animal investigator. They explained to me how this procedure works and how I have to wait to see what the findings are, but New Jersey State Police will prosecute her, as well as I will also sue her in court for the death of my horse and pain and suffering for my family and I. Just know I made this my life's mission to take her down. I've had so many people reach out with similar experiences with this trainer, tons and tons of screenshots and pictures. I have plenty of evidence to put her away. I'm waiting on the most important evidence, and that's my necropsy results, which will take a couple of weeks. I will be updating as I know more. anymore. I'm very slow at answering everyone, and I haven't slept. I'm an absolute mess right now. That was March 11th, so over a month ago. She did end up getting the necropsy results and says that it is starvation. There's no way for anybody to know what those autopsy results say unless she actually releases the autopsy publicly. So that's why I'm saying all of this is alleged that this horse died from starvation. Now, botulism is really interesting. It's basically the ingestion of a toxin in the horse's system. It's not always fatal, but let me explain a little so you guys know what it is. The most common way that horses are affected by botulism is through their forage, consuming the toxin, or through wound infestation. Not to mention, their symptoms usually vary depending on the amount of toxins they consumed. Like I said, botulism is not always fatal, especially if you catch it early on and your horse did not consume a lot of the toxin. There's very easy ways to treat this. How will somebody know if a horse is dying of botulism or needs to be put down for that? Well, the veterinarian would not know that the horse is suffering from botulism just by a generalized exam, meaning just looking over the horse, a physical, essentially. You can't tell that just by looking at an animal. You would have to, in most cases, actually draw blood, test the feed that was fed to the horse or the grass in the field to know if the horse ingested the toxin. So the story's already fishy, and I don't believe that this horse died of botulism, given that she didn't mention anything about the veterinarian doing a blood test, etc. And they can't tell just by temperature that a horse is suffering from botulism. Matter of fact, temperature is not even really a side effect of botulism. Temperature is, however, a major side effect of starvation. Most horses that die from botulism do not look skin and bone. And I can't show the photos, but if you see the before photo of her horse, looks pretty normal. And if you see the after photo of her horse when it came off the trailer, it's skin and bone. Moving over to the possibility that this horse was starved to death, which in my opinion is most likely if everything described by the owner is true, it's very difficult to starve a horse to death. Usually horses can go for 3 to 6 weeks without food, sometimes even longer, as long as they have access to water before they die from starvation. That's a really long time for an animal to go without food. And given that you can see in some of these photos that the horses were on pasture, that just goes to show you how long she went without actually feeding the animals because they weren't able to get enough MCAL intake just through their daily grazing. Something that really did stand out to me though as more of starvation was the fact that the veterinarian said that the horse was hypothermic. This is more indicative of a horse that doesn't have any body fat percentage and basically no way to thermoregulate because there's just nothing for their body to run on anymore. A horse that's suffering from botulism who has been starving for weeks because maybe they stopped eating, they would experience a temperature drop and be hypothermic for the same reasons regarding starvation. However, like I said in the beginning, botulism can be treated. So for you to not notice that a horse had it for several weeks when it's skin and bone is just really unacceptable, and that's essentially the same thing as starving your horse because you didn't do anything to treat the toxin. The horse died of starvation either way you look at it because the starvation occurred after the botulism toxin, or it just occurred without it because she didn't feed the horse. You might be surprised to hear me say this, but I actually don't feel bad for this horse's owner. This is exactly why you don't send your animals away for several months and never go see them and just trust that somebody is taking care of your animal. It doesn't matter how good of a facility you're keeping your horse at. It doesn't matter how much you're paying somebody. You should never trust somebody with your child or with your animals. And this has nothing to do with wanting to send your horses away to trainers because I'm fully aware that plenty of people adopt or purchase horses that they don't really know how to train, that they need help with, that they want to have as a good riding horse. So they do the responsible thing. They send it to somebody who knows what they're doing. if you want to have a horse, you still need to be an active participant in its life as the horse's owner and caretaker. You are your animal's advocate. You are your animal's voice. Nobody is going to care about your animal as much as you do. So when I see people who send their animals away to trainers or boarding facilities, and then they never see their horses, even though they only live an hour and a half away, for several months on end, and don't even get real videos or photos without the horse's blanket on, that seems very suspicious to me. To me, that shows a severe lack of interest in your animal and in the care for your animal, to be honest. You had the horse at her training facility for 4 months, and it was only an hour and a half away, and you never even went to check on your horse one time. The only victim in this situation is the horse that was murdered. The horse was starved to death, and not just this horse, but multiple other horses on this property. Those owners are not victims. The horses are the victims. If you had just gone to see or check up on your animal one time in 4 months, girl, this might not have happened. And I hate to say that because a lot of people are going to be in the comments saying, Raleigh, how dare you? How dare you say this to these people who just lost their animals? Well, I mean, you never even saw your horse for 4 months, and it was only an hour and a half away from you. I commuted an hour and 15 minutes each way every single day to my barn when I lived in California for 3 years. And you're going to sit there and tell me that like driving an hour and a half to go see your horse once a month was too big of a deal for you? How many times do I talk about responsible ownership on this channel? I would be a hypocrite if I didn't call out these owners for being irresponsible owners. Now, I'm obviously in no way excusing Katie Lee Farrell's behavior. Two things can be true at once. These owners can be negligent, and the trainer can be an animal abuser. Plus, this veterinarian needs to have his license removed. Plus, the owners of this training facility need to have their place shut down and be investigated as well. Like I said in the beginning, this entire video boils down to negligence on all sides. And the only true victim here are the horses.